Good morning. Welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for America. I hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I tell you, I'm just encouraged by what the President of the United States is doing with our military today. So grateful for all of those who have served, particularly those who've given their lives in service to the country. And so grateful that we have a president who finally respects that fully. I never believed that Barack Obama did. I never believed that Joe Biden did. Frankly, I never believed that any Democrat really respected our military. And generally speaking, people in the military know that when Democrats are in charge, the military is going to suffer. They're going to suffer from budget cuts. They're going to suffer from all kinds of intrusions into the military culture. And we saw this with the Biden administration in absolute stark terms with all the drag queen ads. I still, folks, I still can't get over it. I really can't. I can't get over the idea that you would actually put a recruitment ad up with a drag queen for the Navy. Again, it just goes to show the degree to which these people have completely lost touch with reality. I mean, you're asking men and women, not drag queens, men and women to join the military, serve our country, and you put a drag queen out there to encourage them to do so? I mean, you might as well figure out a way to keep people from joining, and that's exactly what happened. We saw recruitment levels go way down. You know, the liberal media is trying to spin it and say, recruitment levels began to go up before Trump took over. Please. What a joke. I tell you what. Even if they did, it was in anticipation of Donald Trump becoming president. Because believe me, nobody was joining the military to be under the leadership of Joe Biden as commander-in-chief. Other than maybe drag queens and homosexuals and sexual deviants and the 152 genders or whatever it is that people have concocted in the wickedness and twistedness of their own minds. Those kinds of people might have been encouraged to join the military. Maybe, I guess. But real men and real women certainly weren't. Men and women who know who they are and understand who God made them to be. They weren't interested in joining that. Thank God for those who stuck it out, hoping that it would pass, and it has passed, thank God, and we pray it never, ever, ever comes back. I mean, this is why we need to enshrine some of this stuff as permanent legislation, and I'm not exactly sure how you do it, but we've got to prevent this stuff from ever happening again. I mean, really, it's utterly ridiculous. And as you all know, my area is a military area. We have the largest naval base in the world right here in Norfolk, the Norfolk Naval Base. And so we get a lot of military people coming through all the time. You know, they're very much a part of our community. Many military people fall in love with this area and decide to stay after they've gotten out, so they retire here. In part because many of them spend years here because, again, there's the biggest naval station in the world and in our military apparatus. People get orders here, and they're sometimes here for 5-10 years. So this becomes home for them, and they stay. So I get to talk to a lot of military people, veterans, active duty. I'd say I haven't had one person say, yeah, all these seminars about how to deal with drag queens and how to deal with non-binaries and how to deal with homosexuals and how to deal with trans. Oh, this is just wonderful. This is just wonderful. And again, these leftists who really could care less about our country, could care less about our military, they're much more interested in power and taking over than they're interested in advancing anything that contributes to the success, the prosperity, the greatness of America. They're not interested in that. They're interested in controlling this depraved culture that they're trying to create. They want to create a depraved culture, and they want to make sure that they're in charge of that depraved culture. So they're not interested in anything that benefits this nation. So they drag our troops through all these training seminars, all about all this ridiculous stuff that has nothing to do with doing their job. If we have a military confrontation with China or Iran, believe me, the people aren't going to say, now wait, what did we learn about transgenderism, everybody? Let's not forget that. That's critical to what we're facing now. Yeah, right. I don't think so. Well, we just celebrated Memorial Day, and I want to share with you two things. One is there is a first of all, President Trump spoke at West Point graduation, and here's some of what he said, and I just, folks, I just love this. This is why, like I said, even though I don't agree with this president about every single thing, I love this president, and I'm so grateful for him because he is just striking the right note and the right tone, and we desperately need it in our country. He said this in his graduation speech for the cadets at West Point. He said, "We're getting rid of the distractions and focusing America's military on its core mission, crushing America's adversaries, killing America's enemies, and defending our great American flag like it has never been defended before. The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, or to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. The military's job is to dominate any foe and annihilate any threat to America, anywhere, anytime, any place." Now that's about as clear as it gets. And that's about as straightforward as you can be. And all of these milquetoast, penny loafer, effete Republicans who have a problem with President Trump have a problem in part because they would never say what he just said. They wouldn't say it. Oh, they'd dance around and they'd have a lot of diplomatic language and a lot of old tired bromides and cliches and in the end everybody be wondering, well, what did he really say? Nothing. This is clear. I said in my sermon, not on Monday, and I hope you caught the Monday sermon too, because it was, wow. God gave me this message for Memorial Day, and the title of the message was "Sacrifice in an Age of Selfishness." Sacrifice in an age of selfishness. President Trump, part of what I said was, in order for us, well, that actually, I just wanted to allude to that message, which re-aired yesterday. I hope you caught it, and we may re-air it again because I think it's an important one. But the week before, my message was really Christianity in the age of madness. And I talked about what is needed in this time of insanity and confusion. And one of the things I said was clarity. Clarity. 1 Corinthians 14:8 says, "If the trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who shall prepare for the battle?" I said it's got to be clear. It's got to be unequivocal. That's clarity. We rarely get that from politicians. We really do. Rarely get that. And rarely get that from presidents, Republican or Democrat. So that was the first thing. Just coming out of Memorial Day, I just thought this was some great stuff. And there's a new ad. When we finally upgrade so I can show you this stuff on video during my podcast, which we're going to get done. Because if I could, I'd show you this ad, but it's a new Army ad. And, they're showing images of our troops in combat gear and marching and, so forth. By the way, on June 14th, they're going to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Army, and President Trump has commissioned a parade, 2-hour confab celebrating the quarter millennium of the Army's existence. It's going to be a great, great celebration. I'd go if I could, but I will not be available to do that. But I hope those of you who can go will go, because these are historic moments, folks. They really are. I mean, this is a quarter of a millennium of our existence. Let me not get started on that one, because that's another subject that we really need to discuss. But here's what the ad says. First of all, Pete Hegseth's voice comes up and he says, no more distractions, no more electric tanks, no more gender confusion, no more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of war fighting. And then President Trump's voice comes up and he says, we will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end. And perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength. Again, clarity. Nobody, our allies and our enemies, can't have any misunderstanding about where we stand and where our military stands and what its mission is. Praise God for it. No wonder recruitment levels are going up, because those are leaders you can be proud to follow. Whereas, what we had before, that all this mush, you all remember they closed down the military for, I think, a day or two. The Secretary of Defense did, in order to have a DEI discussion, in order to, right. They were talking about things like, in order to get in touch with white supremacy and white rage and, no wonder recruitment went down. No wonder they couldn't meet their quotas. Who wants to be involved in this social engineering, experimentation, mind control nonsense? Because that's all that was. That's all. And I've had guys tell me, yeah, they put us in these seminars and we just sit there and listen to and be told, here's how you relate to homosexuals. Here's how you relate to transgenders. I don't need all that. I don't want that. I'm not interested in that. I'll be very honest. I'm not interested in relating to a transgender. I'm not. I'm interested in relating to human beings as human beings. I don't need to be getting a set of rules and pronouns. Oh, here comes a transgender. You have to remember to say this and not say that and do this and not. I'm not interested. You can just take that stuff and drop it in the nearest garbage pail, because I don't care. If by becoming one of these sexually confused, sexually deviant people, you are declaring that you are no longer human, then I don't need to talk to you anyway. But if you are still a human being, then I will talk to you as a human being. That's it. And I'll show you the same respect that I'd give to any other human being. But I'm not going to play these games of trying to jump through hoops over making sure that I use the right pronouns and making sure. Give me a break. Because I'll tell you the truth. If I met Bruce Jenner, I wouldn't call him Caitlyn. I would not. I refused. So what would you call him? I don't know. Jenner? I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. Since he's supposed to be so conservative, I would say to him, well, do you believe in God? Do you believe God made you to be a man, Bruce? And do you believe when you stand before God, when you leave this earth and stand before God, you think God's going to say, oh, yeah, thank you for correcting my mistake. I made you a man, but thank you for correcting me, Caitlyn? Give me a break. But that's all the garbage that the Biden administration had our military all tied up in that. I say, when I was in the Marine Corps, We used to hear this over and over and over again. There's only one color in my Marine Corps, that's green. And that wasn't green for money. That was green for the combat uniform that you put on when you become a Marine. That's what it was for. And that's the only color there was. And everything else was diminished. Everything else, that's not what we're here for. Because look, folks, in that message I shared 3 Medal of Honor winners. All of them saved the lives of others by giving their own lives. Do you think that the people whose lives they saved thought, well, you know, since that person was white, I didn't want my life saved by him. Or since that person was black, I didn't want my life saved by him. Or since that person was Hispanic, I didn't want my life saved by him. I mean, of course, well, that's absurd. Of course not. Who cares? You want to know that your fellow platoon members, your fellow soldiers, sailors, warriors, you want to know that they are going to do their duty and have your back the same way you have theirs. And that's all that matters. So thank God for finally the change that we are experiencing with our military. Because, you know, I said, actually, I didn't say this during the message. I could have. There are really only 3 institutions in America today that propagate the culture of integrity, honor, courage, and self-sacrifice. Only 3. You know what those 3 are? The military, law enforcement, and the Church of Jesus Christ. Now, you probably are surprised at that list. But those are the only 3 institutions in America that maintain the culture that I think has brought us to the point of being the greatest nation in the history of mankind. And foundational is the church and its values, which has informed these other institutions. I mean, folks, in ancient times, men didn't fight for love of country. They fought maybe for their families, if they thought their families were in danger, or maybe for their clan, because there was a lot of tribalism dominated the world. They didn't fight for anybody's liberty. They didn't fight. Most wars in ancient times were wars of conquest. Because the whole notion is if you are strong enough, big enough, mighty enough, you take land and you take property from others. That's how you expand your territory. That's how the whole world functioned, folks. And really, I believe the United States of America, maybe to a lesser extent Europe, but I don't see any particular evidence of this. But America particularly, since we are the only country on earth that I am aware of, the only nation on earth. Now, some European countries like Sweden that's tried to be neutral for I guess, a couple centuries now, maybe they would say, well, no, we've never fought a war of conquest. America's the only country I know of and that I can name right off the top of my head. Our military has never been given the mission, never been charged with, and never engaged in wars of conquest. All of our wars have been wars of defense. Our president, our military commanders have never sat around saying, what territory can we take over? Every other country has. England did it. France did it. Germany did it. Spain did it. All of them. All the European countries. China certainly did it. Japan. Folks, did you know that from, I think about it lasted about 10 years. So from about the mid 1930s to about 1945 at the end of the war, did you know that Japan actually took over and tried to rule, to subjugate China? Japan had 70 million people at the time. China had 500 million. China was 7 times larger in population. Japan had 250,000 square miles of territory. China had 4 million square miles of territory. And little bitty Japan is trying to run China. America's never had that kind of culture. Our culture's been Judeo-Christian, and so our troops have been taught you are fighting for liberty, you are fighting for security, you are fighting for the safety of yourself, your fellow troops, and your country and your countrymen. That's a very different culture, a very different mindset. And so there's honor, there's integrity, there's courage, there's self-sacrifice in what you are doing. You are not doing it for glory. In ancient times, individual soldiers fought for glory. You get glory in battle, maybe you get rich, maybe you get more wives, maybe you get more property, maybe some king or some potentate or some tribal leader rewards you with this, that, or the other. But people weren't fighting for what we know and think of as patriotism, love of country. That's, if not unique to American culture, it's close to it. And again, I haven't done research to see, well, is there any other country like it, or that's ever done anything like that. And I think the Romans tried to instill in their people a certain pride in Rome, but they certainly weren't fighting for anybody's liberty. So what we have is just unique in world history. Okay. And so praise God for those fallen heroes whose graves dot the entire world. And praise God for those on active duty right now who are prepared to put themselves in harm's way and to give their lives in behalf of our country and our liberty and our security. Speaking of the military, or related to that, did you know that the Democrats have just now come up with a plan that they're going to spend $20 million on an effort to speak to American men? Again, and part of this, they're going to study the lingo. What lingo? They're going to study the phrases. And, you know, when you reject God, you really do just go stupid. Give me the $20 million. I'll do something productive with it. It's not going to move the needle, not one iota. Because how in the world are you going to somehow try to buy your way into the hearts of men when you're telling men that they really shouldn't be men? Because to be a man is to be toxically masculine. Oh, but men, we want to relate to you. How can you relate to men when you're saying to be a man is to be, by definition, an oppressor? We want to relate to you, man, you terrible oppressors, but we want to relate to you. How in the world can you relate to men when we see incidents like this father who stood up in Loudoun County School Board at the school board meeting to defend his daughter who had been sexually assaulted by a guy that they allowed it to use the female restrooms because he claimed to be a girl, and then to call that man a liar and say they didn't believe him and didn't believe his daughter. But oh man, we relate to you, man. When Tim Walz is supposed to be, he said his job was to translate to the men, and you know, you claim to be some hunter and you can't even load a shotgun. and you claim to be some sports aficionado, and you don't know what a pick six is, and you don't really even know how to play Madden. And the thing is, I don't know how to play that stuff. I'm not into it, but I'm not trying to pretend I am. And I'm not going to try to relate to anybody on that basis. See, manhood is not, well, you know, you got these certain things that men do, and if you touch these buttons, you check these boxes, men will relate to you. No. Manhood is not, do you watch sports closely? Manhood is, it's in the heart. That sense of manly, masculine identity. That sense of being a protector, a defender. A sense of being a provider. That sense of being a warrior. That's something that God has put in us. And the Democrat Party has been doing their very best to wrench it out. But now they're going to spend $20 million to tell men. But we can relate to you, men. We can relate. The devil is a liar. Because that's nothing but a lie. They can't relate to men. They're not interested in men. You know, under Democrat leadership, you realize that the whole health, the education, the prosperity, the promotion, the advancement of men in general is on the decline. More women are being educated than men, better educated than men. More women are getting degrees than men. More women are being promoted to the upper echelons of our corporate world than men. Now, even if you say, well, most of the CEOs are men, it won't. If this trend continues, that won't be the case for much longer. When men are being told to take a back seat, we're not interested. We don't want you. I'm going to make an appointment. It's definitely going to be a woman. It's going to definitely be a black woman. It's going to be a black woman lesbian. It's going to be a black woman lesbian, transgender, non-binary. Now somehow there's got to be a woman in there somewhere. But what's a woman? Oh well, I don't know what a woman is. I mean, they're that confused. That is no exaggeration. But they're going to relate to men with what they call SAM, speaking with American men. You know what I want to say? Don't speak to me. Don't speak to me. I don't want to hear what you've got to say. Because I'm not interested. You have no authenticity whatsoever. I do not trust your sincerity. I do not trust your motives. I know that they're interested in one thing, manipulating people for the purpose of gaining power. That's all. They don't even know the word service and sacrifice, the words service and sacrifice, which is what our military celebrates. They don't even know those words. They know the words manipulation, deception, subjugation. In other words, everybody's for their use, for their purpose. People are just their tools to get where they want to go. And it shows that what Doge has discovered shows what the Democrat Party has really been up to, because I came to this revelation years ago. I didn't always understand this. Generally speaking, conservatives see the government as an entity that is designed to serve the American people, but its power should be limited so that it doesn't become the ruler and the dominator of the American people. Democrats have just the opposite approach. They see government as the tool whereby they can control the American people, the tool whereby they can rule the American people. And so they want it to be larger and larger and larger and larger. And this notion of cutting staff, of cutting the budget. Look, cut the police budget. Oh, yeah, let's reimagine the police. We don't need police. You got crime running rampant all over the nation. Cut the police budget. but cut the government budget, hair on fire, hysterical, panicked. Oh, Trump's destroying the world. Trump's destroying the country. Because that's their little playground. It's their little fiefdom. It's their machine. And they need all of your money and mine in order to control people, in order to use people, in order to manipulate people, in order to indoctrinate people. I mean, Harvard is all up in arms over the federal government cutting their grants. You know, Harvard, we live in a country, praise God, where we have a First Amendment. Harvard can say whatever they want to say. They can think whatever they want to think. They can pretty much do whatever they want to do, as long as they're not violating the law. But they can't do it with our money. Right? They can't do it with our money. I can't expect the federal government to finance me going out and preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm free to do it, and I'm going to. But I don't expect taxpayers to pay for it. Harvard wants to preach demonism and satanic and demonic garbage. They want to be able to proclaim that, and they want to stick their hand in your pocket and mine to do it. And Trump said, well, you're not going to do that anymore. And Harvard's all up in arms. Oh, you can't do that. It's the end of education. And, you know, you even have these idiots. Harvard, Lawrence Tribe, you know, Lawrence Tribe is a Harvard law professor, and probably one of the dumbest people I've ever heard. I mean, Lawrence Tribe is truly dumb. He's truly dumb. I said, well, how can you be dumb and be a Harvard Law School professor? Well, folks, if you are indoctrinated to think a certain way that denies reality, and that colors and informs all of your thinking, it renders you dumb. I don't care how smart you might think you are or how much law you might think you know, it renders you dumb. And he's dumb. So he says, the reason why Donald Trump is cracking down on Harvard is he's against intellect. You know, Donald Trump graduated from an Ivy League school. I graduated from Harvard Law School. We are not against intellect. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. I want Americans to sharpen themselves and educate themselves, and I mean, I want us to be the smartest nation on the planet. I really do. But that's not what that is. That's not what Harvard is. Harvard is an indoctrination camp now. I mean, I don't have any doubt that there might be some smart people on the campus who are doing, and maybe some who are doing even some good things, but that's not the culture of the campus. The culture of the campus is anti-Christian, contrary to John Harvard's vision for starting the school and those around him. It is anti-American, contrary to the fact that most of its money comes from the American people, and a lot of it comes from taxpayer dollars. As far as I'm concerned, it's Harvard that's anti-intellectual. I told you when I was there at the Harvard Divinity School, actually I think this is after I left, the Harvard Divinity School. I attended Harvard Divinity School. I didn't finish because, as I've said before, it wasn't very divine. But at the Harvard Divinity School, folks, they actually had a display in the lobby of the Harvard Divinity School called Sacred Condoms, in which they made Christian symbols out of condoms. And they said it was to show the interconnection between sexuality and spirituality. Again, just dumb. So I'm glad. I want President Trump to crack down on all of these private institutions that are getting all of this federal money and doing nothing but indoctrinating our kids with a whole bunch of leftists. Now we know anti-Semitic, communist, Marxist, socialist, leftist garbage. Look, we can't stop them from doing it. I defend their right to do that. But they can't do it with your money and mine. And the idiots who want to pay for them to indoctrinate people this way, They're welcome to spend their money, spend all the money they want doing it. But you can't reach into my pocket. You can't reach into the federal treasury and take our money and then use it to indoctrinate our people into a Marxist, godless, anti-Judeo-Christian worldview, which is contrary to what has made this nation the most successful in human history. You can't do that. But you haven't had any other president with the ventricular fortitude to say it and enforce it. And thank God President Trump is doing just that. Well, look, the cultural, spiritual, and cultural battle continues. Look, the devil is not surrendering. Folks, if he's going to gather troops together for Armageddon, if he's going to gather troops together at the end of the 1,000-year reign of Christ, still trying to overthrow God, do you think he's going to quit because Donald Trump's president? No, he's doubling down. The Bible says he's come down in great wrath because he knows that his time is short. So he's doubling down. And one of the symbols of that we see, one of the symptoms of this demonic doubling down is the level of violence. These two young people just killed in Washington, D.C. for nothing by this fool talking about free Palestine, free Palestine. Please. Send them back to the Arab countries they belong in. Let them go back to Jordan. Let them go to Egypt. Let them go somewhere. The Holy Land was given to the children of Israel by God. That's right. I said it because it's the truth. And nobody's going to ever get them out of it, and nobody's going to destroy the Jewish people. And the only thing people are going to do, and countries are going to do like Iran, they're going to do by trying to destroy, if they really make an attempt to destroy the Jewish people, they're going to destroy themselves. Because God's not going to have it. You got the former LA deputy mayor who has just pleaded guilty to making a bomb threat. Now, the bomb threat was supposed to be a hoax, but he made it. And he's now pled guilty to it. There's this guy, Brian K. Williams, 61. He should go to prison, but it's L.A. I doubt that he will, but he should. He sent a text message. He's the deputy mayor. He sent a text message to the mayor who appointed him, Mayor Karen Bass, and other officials on October 3rd of last year, saying he had received a call from someone who had threatened to bomb City Hall, and he was specific about it, the Rotunda. He made it up. This is where, I mean, that's not actual violence, but it is a kind of violence when you're threatening, you're making bomb scares. So this battle is not nearly over, folks. Like, I know I say that pretty much every program, but it's because it is so true. And I really do believe that many have relaxed because Trump is in office and thought, oh, okay, well, finally, we won it. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. Frankly, to tell you the truth, in my view, we're really at the beginning of turning the country around. We're at the beginning of it. We're not even at the middle, and we're certainly not at the end. We're at the beginning. Because look, all these institutions of cultural influence have got to be reined in. And we've got to get people in them who love God, love our country, love our Constitution, believe in our nation. And right now, that's not what we've got. We've got people in most of these institutions who hate America, hate God, hate all of us, hate the American people. I mean, you see how they just dismiss vast swaths of us as deplorables and dumb and they're not paying attention. That's why they're supporting Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah. Well, we're going to win. Here's the last thing I want to talk about in the few minutes I've got left. I said Doge has done a magnificent job identifying all the ways in which the left, the Democrat Party, uses the federal government like a machine, like their personal political machine. They found out we had 12.3 million people receiving Social Security who were 120 years old and up. 12.3 million people receiving Social Security who are 120 years old or older. Who are these people? Where's this money going to? Another 11 million receiving Social Security who were illegal aliens. You know that Biden was encouraging illegal aliens as soon as they come to this country to sign up for Social Security? Now, why do you think they were doing that? Because they're buying them, folks. Look, I said a while ago, I've said it probably more than, I know I said it more than once, but I haven't said it in a while. The spirit of the Democrat, the Democrat Party has not changed. 150 years ago, it was the party of slavery. It is still the party of slavery. But the slavery is now psychological and financial rather than physical. The chains that they are crafting are being put on people's minds and hearts, not around their legs or their arms. And the limits that they are placing on them are not geographical, as you stay in this plantation, but they are ideological, in which you stay within this framework that we've given you for how you're supposed to think. And to transgress that framework is to leave the plantation. And we got to hunt you down and try to bring you back. And if we can't bring you back, then we make you an outlaw. What do you think they're paying illegal immigrants Social Security for? They're buying them. What they're really doing is buying slaves. But all they want the slave to do now is not to go work in their fields, but to go vote in their voting places. And to be registered in the census so that you add to the numbers of people in their districts so they can get more representation in Congress. It's just a different slave system, but it's the same thing. The slave system before was justified on the basis that black people, people of African ancestry, were not intelligent enough or equipped enough to do anything else or to do anything without the leadership of their slave masters. Their slave masters gave them sustenance when they wouldn't be able to have any on their own. Their slave masters gave them shelter when they wouldn't be able to provide it on their own. The slave masters gave them clothing and food when they wouldn't be able to obtain that on their own. And so they were really blessed to be slaves because they had someone looking out for them. Is the message of the Democrat Party any different today to black folks, to Hispanic folks, to anybody they want to claim in their protected class? Is any different? You are not capable of taking care of yourself, but have no fear. We will take care of you. All you have to do is be an obedient slave. Vote the way we want you to vote. Do what we tell you to do, and all is well. No problem. The context has changed. The times are different. But the underlying attitude and spirit of that party is no different than it was then. And so I think that what my prayer for all Americans who have been dubbed by these demonically possessed people and their demonically influenced party have been dubbed victims and recipients of their beneficence should stand up and say, I am not a slave. And I am not going to be your toy. I'm not going to be your plaything. I'm not going to do your bidding. I'm not going to be your sycophant. I'm going to follow my own conscience. I'm going to do what I believe to be right. And I don't need your money to manipulate me or maneuver me to where you want me to be. I'm my own man. I'm my own woman. I'm going to have my own thoughts. I'm going to speak my own words. And I'm going to do what I want to do with my life. Thank you very much. And you know, again, folks, forgive me, but here's the interesting thing. I say that black conservatives have been saying that since Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Carter Woodson, George Washington Carver. They were all conservative. Just leave me alone. Let me build a life for myself. Don't discriminate against me. Don't try to hurt me. Don't try to stop me. Just treat me like a human being. End of discussion. But along comes W.E.B. Du Bois with the, oh, we're all victims and white people are bad and black people are victims and we need communism and we need Marxism and we need socialism and woe is me. And that's the ideology that sadly the so-called civil rights establishments has adopted. But look, so where does that put them? That puts them at the feeding trough of the government saying, gimme, 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 gimme. We can't make it without you. Gimme, 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 gimme. I stand up and say I'm my own man. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to think my own thoughts. I'm going to have my own plan, my own agenda. And what am I? Oh, he's a sellout. He's an Uncle Tom. It is so backwards. I stand up for unborn black babies and say they ought to be able to live. And here's some idiot like, you know, Al Dalton, as opposed to Sharpton. Just came up with that. And yeah, kill all the black babies you want. It's a great thing. Planned Parenthood, yeah, man, slaughter those babies left and right. Man, it's a wonderful thing. We don't need more black people being born in America. They say, what a champion for black people he is. Oh, what a wonderful, what a champion he is standing up for. And he's nothing but a racial pimp. That's all. And MSNBC giving him a program is pimping the pimp. Yep. Because he'll go out there and tell black people how, yeah, we're all victims and America's terrible and how we can't make it and what will we do without our white liberal friends, our white liberal slave master friends to take care of us. They'll pat his little bouffant. You might say, well, be careful how you touch it. Took me 2 hours to get my hair done. And then pat his little bouffant, and he'll run off and say what needs to be said. Okay, I better quit. Yeah. Now look, I'm using an analogy. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, don't censor me. I'm using an analogy. In the same way, if you said someone prostituting themselves, you don't mean they're literally a prostitute. You mean they're selling themselves in other ways. And so I use the word pimp in the same way. It's an analogy. Basically, it is exploiting other people for your own benefit and putting those other people at the disposal of other people who benefit from having those people at their disposal. And you coordinate that and you help make that happen. That means you are pimping those people out to the folks who want to use them. The Bible in the Old Covenant called it whoremongering. And yeah, God used that. I got to go. God used that analogy many times when the children of Israel were disobedient and rebellious. He called them adulterers and adulteresses. Same deal. He wasn't talking about them being sexually promiscuous, although that was the case too. He was talking about them being spiritually promiscuous. Okay, I'm going to go. God bless each and every one of you. I love you. I'm praying for you. Pray for me. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Go to standamerica.us to support our work. Standamerica.us. Make the most generous contribution you can. Sign up as a Patriot Partner with a monthly contribution, and I guarantee you, we will use your dollars as wisely and as effectively as we know how to advance the cause of Judeo-Christian values and constitutional governance and liberty in the United States of America, bringing us all together across racial and cultural lines rather than dividing us on the basis of something as silly as the complexion of our skin. You know what to do. Stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up, because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit, because we are on God's side. God bless everybody.